You may have just seen the announcement that Instagram Live Producer is now available. In this video, we'll break down what this means for you as a creator and how you can start using it today. Hi, I'm Aaron Parecki. In the past, the only way to go live on Instagram has been by using the Instagram app on a phone. This is obviously super limiting because it means you can't do things like add graphics or music. Plus, while phone cameras are a lot better than they were 5 years ago, they are still nowhere near as good as a proper studio camera. Last year, YoloLive launched the InStream, a device that lets you plug in multiple cameras and use it to stream to Instagram. But the way it worked is it's basically an Android tablet with a bunch of HDMI inputs, and it exposes a single camera feed to any apps on the device. So you would launch the actual Instagram app on the device and go live inside the app, and still be able to switch camera angles and add graphics and things. This year, YoloLive launched the YoloBox Ultra, which also has the vertical streaming feature built in, but also works like the YoloBox Pro in horizontal mode. I'll link to 2 other videos I have about this device if you want to learn more, because that's actually not what this video is about. For the past year or so, Instagram has been doing private tests of allowing people to stream to the Instagram platform from any streaming encoder, whether that's software like OBS or hardware like the ATEM Mini. These tests have been invite only to select professional accounts, my account not being one of the ones in the list. Today, they just announced that now any professional account will be able to go live on Instagram using any streaming encoder, opening up the ability to do high-quality Instagram live streams to a whole new range of creators. First, let's go through the requirements to use Instagram Live Producer. The feature is, at least for now, limited to professional accounts. And while that sounds somewhat restrictive, it's actually very easy to make a professional account. There's no approval process. You can just go into settings to make the change. On your profile page, tap the hamburger menu, choose Settings and Privacy, scroll all the way down until you get to Account Type and Tools, and then just tap the Switch to Professional account. You'll have to go through a couple of little explanations about what this is, and then choose a category. I'll choose Digital Creator, show it on the profile. I'll confirm that I'm a creator, and let's not get promotional emails and not share logins. And let's just skip this, and I think we're ready to go. Now I've got access to things like the professional dashboard, but most importantly, I have access to the new Instagram live streaming feature. The next requirement is that the Instagram Live Producer tool is only available on desktop, so you have to log into your Instagram account on your computer in order to get the new feature. So once you're logged in on the desktop, just go over to the sidebar and click Create, and now you should see this new option, Live Video. I'm gonna go ahead and click that. Now I'm just gonna add a title, and I'm gonna choose whether the audience is public or a practice session, and we'll do a practice session for now. Now I can just click Next, and this is showing me the stream URL and stream key to use in any streaming encoder. There are a few tips you should know before you try to push video here and go live. This is based on some initial testing I've done today. First of all, if you send Instagram horizontal video, it will crop and show you only the middle slice of it. If you can send Instagram vertical video, then it will use the whole frame. So if you have the ability to create a vertical streaming canvas, then that will actually be a lot better on Instagram because it's going to use more of the available video resolution. Speaking of resolution, let's talk a little bit about resolution and frame rate. If you read the Instagram docs, it says to use a 720p feed at 30 frames a second with an average video bitrate range of 2250 to 6000 kilobits a second. Now, if you do try sending it a 1080 feed, it will sort of work, but it'll be very stuttery and it'll eventually just stop working. So you'll definitely want to make sure that you're sending only a 720 feed. I also noticed that it seemed to do very poorly if I sent it anything over 3 megabits, even though it says it can handle up to 6. Above 3, I would start seeing a lot of dropped frames. It could just be that this is newly rolling out and a lot of people are trying it right now, but for now I would just stick to a lower bitrate. Okay, so now you know what format you need to send. So how do you actually send video to Instagram over RTMP? There are a couple different options, and the best one for you will depend on a lot of other factors, like whether you want a portable setup or trying to set up a more permanent studio. I have a lot of other videos on my channel that go over tips and tools for building out a live streaming setup, so I'll leave a link to a few of them down below. The biggest constraint here is that you need to find a streaming encoder that can stream 720, not 1080. And that means, unfortunately, streaming from an ATEM Mini won't work. The ATEM Mini is locked to a 1080 resolution. If I go into the settings of the ATEM here, I can choose different frame rates, but there's no option to choose the 720 resolution for the entire switcher. I did some testing with other encoders that I have in my studio, and here is what I found. Interestingly, the Blackmagic Web Presenter, which is the device I have in my rack here that I use for my weekly live streams to YouTube, it can actually take a 1080 signal in and then stream 720 out. So we can actually use that for Instagram. Normally I have the Web Presenter set to 1080p 30 frames a second, and this one actually does let me change it down to 720/30. So I can go ahead and change this stream standard here, and I'm still feeding it a 1080 signal in. Another option is to use any of the YoloBox models, whether that's the Mini or the Pro or the Ultra like this one. These all have the option to set the streaming resolution to 720. You just tap on the little 1080p up here and you can go on the Ultra up to 4K, but in this case we actually want to drop down to 720. The nice thing about the YoloBox is that there's also a setting over here that actually lets you change the bit rate, so we can actually drop this down to a safer 2.5 megabits. The main downside to these devices is that there's no way to put them into vertical mode. So they will always present a horizontal canvas to Instagram, and Instagram will always crop into the middle part of the video, which means even rotating your cameras won't work here. One of the few hardware encoders that supports vertical streaming canvas is the Magewell Director Mini. When you create a show in the Director Mini, you can actually choose whether it's landscape or portrait mode. In vertical mode, you can choose the orientation of each camera that you bring in. So for example, if I bring in my main camera here, I could scale it down to fit here, and then I could actually add another layer that's a background. I can go add a picture from the SD card, put this layer here, move this down to the bottom, and now I've got a layout like this that has my camera on top of background. I'll save that as HDMI 1. I can go ahead and make a second copy of HDMI 1 that actually scales this all the way up. Now I have two versions of my camera. I have one that's full screen cropped, and I have one that fits the entire frame with a background on it. If you happen to have one of your cameras set up that is rotated, you can also actually rotate the camera. So I can just go ahead and rotate the camera, scale that up to fit, and now you've got the full canvas of the camera being used in the frame. The Director Mini also supports a lot of options for encoding. You can set your codec, your resolution, and your frame rate. So for Instagram, I would probably switch this down to 720, do 30 frames a second, and it defaults to a good 2.5 megabits. We can click that, add that as an option, and now I can use this when I'm creating streaming destinations. So to create a streaming destination, I would go in here, add a RTMP server. To actually do this and enter the long stream key, I would pull up the web interface on the computer and copy and paste it there. And this is where I would then choose the encoder to use here. If you're more comfortable streaming from a computer, then you can use apps like the free OBS app or Ecamm Live or vMix. These apps will also let you create a vertical canvas to take advantage of the full resolution on Instagram. So for example, in OBS, go into settings here, click on video, and here type in 720 by 1280 into both the base and output resolution. So now when you bring in video sources, I'll go ahead and bring in my capture card. Now I have the option of either scaling this down, putting it behind my little overlay, or if I wanted to, I could put it on top and then scale this up and crop into the camera just like it would natively, or anything in between. And I can even rotate this. If I did actually rotate my camera, I could then go rotate this to match. So regardless of the encoder that you're using, once you get things set up, you're ready to go plug in the RTMP URL and stream key. Now, unfortunately, their URLs and stream keys are ridiculously long and complicated, so you'll really only want to use this if you can copy and paste the stream key rather than entering it by hand. Luckily, all the options I mentioned earlier all support copying and pasting. So let's try this with the Web Presenter. I'm going to launch the Web Presenter setup app and go into the settings here. First, I'm going to make sure that I've set the stream standard to 720/30. Then I can now choose custom URL H264. This is actually something in a recent firmware update, so do make sure that your Web Presenter is up to date. Now I can enter the server URL and stream key. So I'll go back to Instagram, click create, click live video, and I'll copy this stream URL here, and I'll copy the stream key here. I did also notice that this changes every time you make a new Instagram live, so I don't mind sharing it on the screen here, but you will have to make sure that you go in and change it every time you go live on Instagram. For quality, I'm going to choose streaming medium, which is about 3 megabits. That's maybe on the high edge. Actually, I'm going to choose streaming low just to be safe. I'll click save, and then I will go ahead and click on air. When I click that, go back to Instagram, and it does take a few seconds, but after a few seconds, we should see the preview show up on the screen here. There it is. You'll also notice that there is a pretty significant delay in this, which is what you get with RTMP. Now that you're receiving the preview here, you can click go live, and that will actually go live on Instagram and start broadcasting to your followers. This is a good example of why I don't recommend streaming just one camera to Instagram, because I don't know exactly when this is going to go live for people. So I probably actually want to start with a logo or a countdown timer and then cut to my camera after I've already clicked the go live button. Otherwise, I'm just going to click go live, and who knows at what part of mid-sentence that I've already said I'm going to be in the middle of once it actually goes live. Once I'm live, this is what it looks like on the Instagram desktop app. Your comments will appear here when people are joining the video. You'll be able to see what you're streaming, and as you're cutting between different camera angles, whether that's using an ATEM Mini or YoloBox or OBS or whatever, you'll see the camera cuts appear in Instagram here. Now you can switch cameras, add graphics, add music, countdown timers, or whatever you want. So this has been a quick overview of using the Instagram Live Producer tool to go live on Instagram from any kind of streaming encoder. If you have any questions about this, please leave a comment down below. I'm always happy to answer questions, and I can always answer questions during one of my weekly live streams on Sundays. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.